शुक्र खुदा में रज़वी हो।
Alhamdulillah, Thumma Alhamdulillah. We are in the month of Zul-Hijjah, and we know that this is the last month of the Muslim calendar, of the Islamic calendar. When Zul-Hijjah comes, then we know that 1 year has come to an end. At the end of this month, the year will end. Which year? 1444.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
1444 Hijri. Many of us don't know what Islamic year we are in. So it's 1444 Hijri. And when this month of Zul-Hijjah will end, and Allah wills, then we will enter into Muharram 1445. In other words, 1444 years since the Prophet ﷺ entered into Madinatul Munawwarah. 1444 years since Nabi ﷺ went from Makkah to Medina, since the Hijrat. Because our Islamic calendar is counted from the Hijrah. That's why it is called the Hijri calendar.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
So Zul-Hajj is a very Mubarak and a very blessed month.
Subhanallah.
And there are numerous fazail and barakat of this month. To keep roza in this month for the first 9 days is like fasting for the whole year. Any one day in these 9 days. Obviously you do not fast on the 10th. It's the day of Eid. But the most important and the most Mubarak fast in this month is the 9th, which is the Yawm Arafah. Now, unfortunately, happens almost every year with the Saudis announce a date that makes no sense for the Arafat. And for whatever their corrupt reasons are, they try to harm the Hajj of millions of Muslims. How many times have we seen in the month of Ramadan even that they announce Eid and they say there has been sighting for Eid. And after Eid you hear the Saudis making announcement that no, we were mistaken, we're giving kafara for everybody, for the whole country. We're giving compensation. They have made the deen a tamasha. But that is by the way. So we are in this Mubarak month of Zul-Hijjah, and you know when the month of Zul-Hijjah comes, everybody knows that Qurban is around the corner. And we also know that for those who have gone for Hajj, it is one of the most blessed moments in their lives. May Allah give us all the tawfiq. It is one of the most important and the blessed moments in the life of a Muslim who goes for Hajj, when he is given the opportunity to fulfill one of the great fard. To perform Hajj is fard if you have the means once in your lifetime.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
And inshallah, Lazim, time permitting, I will discuss one of the Fridays, even though the month may finish, so that we remind ourselves for the future. Unfortunately, in our country, we have rules that you have to, if your name comes, you can go. If you credit it, you can go. Otherwise, you can apply for whoever and how many years, till your name doesn't come, you can't do anything. Allah raham kare. For that reason, many people can't even go. Okay? But this Mubarak and this blessed Hajj that Allah has commanded us to fulfill is in this month. And it was during his final Hajj, the Hajjatul Wada, that the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the greatest message for mankind. And he explained and taught us, and he said to us that now the deen has been perfected. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. So this month holds great virtue. Very, very virtuous. And you know when Qurbani comes, and somebody talks about Qurbani, which is inshallah Lazim, next week, Thursday, 10th of Zilhijjah, inshallah Lazim, Thursday, the namaz time is on the board. Hafiz will make the announcements afterwards. When you think of the 10th of Zilhijjah, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Qurbani? Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. Naturally, right? Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and Hazrat Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
And when you think of Hajj also, what comes to mind? Hajj, everything is the blessing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when you go back in history and you think about Hajj, what do you think of? Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam. By the will of Allah, they constructed that holy Kaaba. The Kaaba, the foundation of which was laid by Sayyidina Jibreel Amin alayhi salatu wasalam. Okay? And I discussed this with you, that when he struck his wing, right up to the seventh earth, the foundation of the Kaaba was. Right? But Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam would construct the Kaaba. They carried rocks by themselves. And when they built the Kaaba and they came to a height where they needed to go more, how do you go? Then came the Maqam Ibrahim, the rock on which Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam used to stand, and he used to go higher, lower, wherever he wanted. That is why today his Naqsh Qadam is still on it. Okay? Those are discussions again by themselves. But something I thought today to discuss about Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. I thought today let's talk a little bit about Ibrahim alayhi salam. And one very important, we know about the Kaaba, we know about the Hajj, we know about his Qurbani, we know about the sacrifice that he was willing to make. But from the life, when you look at the life of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, you will look at how much of sabr he had. Very, very important thing. How much of sabr Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam had. He is being commanded by Allah to sacrifice his son, his beloved son, who Allah gave him after such a long time. He is being commanded to sacrifice that child for the pleasure of Allah, and that Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam does not flinch. Not even for a moment. This is the hukum of my Rabb. This is the hukum of my Rabb. When Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam left Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam and Bibi Hajra under the acacia tree in Makkah, when except them there were no other inhabitants in Makkah. It was a desert, nobody lived there. There was nothing, there was no food, there was no water. But Ibrahim ala Nabina alayhi salatu wasalam left Hazrat Hajra and Hazrat Ismail as a baby there. And he left. What did she ask him? Why are you leaving us here when there is nobody? There are no people here, there is no water here, whatever we have, we have. If it comes to an end, what will we do? Why are you leaving? He remained silent. She said, is it a command from your Rabb? He said, yes. Immediately she accepted. Bibi ho gaye. Our mothers and sisters and our daughters should learn a lesson and learn from Hazrat Hajara radiallahu an how to be subordinate to the husband. Because this is the command of the Quran, Ar-Rijalu Qawwamuna 'ala an-Nisa. Allah has commanded this. She doesn't question because it is the hukum of the Rabb. He left them there. Look at his sabr and look at their sabr. But if he didn't leave them there, and Bibi Hajra didn't run looking for water for Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, and the holy foot of that Nabi did not strike the ground, 1400 years later you would have not been drinking Abe Zamzam. You and I would have not been drinking Abe Zamzam. This is the barakat and the mu'jiza of the qadam of a Nabi. Okay? For those people who say, we don't drink that thing that is niyaz and fatiha and tabarruk. Zamzam pina chhor do. Stop drinking. Because where did it come from? It came to the barakat of the foot of a Nabi. Those who say Nabi can't give. He gave 1400, not 1400, that was our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He gave in his zamana, before this I said 1400, it shouldn't have been 1400. The zamana of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. That zamana, hundreds of years, thousands of years have gone by. That foot hit the zameen then, he gave then, people are still having. He gave it then and he's feeding till now. And Zamzam is that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, it is a meal also and it is a drink also. It finishes your thirst also and it gets rid of your hunger also. That is why when you go to Makkatul Mukarramah and you drink Zamzam, drink a full stomach. Drink a full stomach. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the difference between us and the munafiqs is that they don't drink a full stomach of Zamzam. And did you know Zamzam Sharif? It is for whatever you drink it. What do you mean? If you drink it for shifa, it is for that. If you drink it to find a pious husband, it is for that. If you drink it to find a pious wife, it is for that. If you drink it so that you can be an alim, it is for that. But on condition it will be done with sincerity, Allah will accept it. Okay? So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam went through many tests in his life. And one of the tests he went through was when Namrud could not bear anymore him spreading the word of Allah. When Ibrahim alayhi salam was spreading the message, long discussion, time is not going to permit. I'm going to be as short as possible. And when Namrud couldn't bear this anymore, what did he do? He decided with his people to throw Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam into a raging inferno, taking a Nabi of Allah and throwing him into a fire. So it is reported that when Namrud decided to throw Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam into the fire, he commanded his people to dig a grave, his nation to dig a hole. To him that was going to be the grave of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's where he would burn and perish. He told him to dig a hole. Now, you take a man and you want to, Allah na kare, somebody wants to burn somebody. Okay? How big a hole do you have to dig? If you want to put him in a hole and burn him.
Big hole.
His height? Little bit more? Alright? When Namrud decided to throw Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam into the fire, do you know how big the hole was? The height, he said, form an enclosure. The hole must become an enclosure. That when he's put inside, it must have high walls. It must be inside. That's how big the hole must be. The height, the walls of that hole, the depth, the walls of that hole, that was dug in front of a mountain to throw Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam into where they were going to put a fire, was 60 gaz. You know what that is? 56.4 meters. The height of the walls, that sand walls that were around it. 56.4 meters high. That was roughly the depth also. How far they went down. And it is reported that when they dug the well, they filled that well with logs, with wood. Now can you tell me a 56 meter depth enclosure like that, how much of wood is it going to take? I'm giving you this brief historic information for a reason. 54.6 meters at a height. Wood being put inside. Sadrul Afadil Allama Naimuddin Muradabadi radiallahu anhu says in Khazan al-Irfan that the people gathered wood for an entire month. How long it took to gather wood? 1 month to put inside that hole. So it was a pre-planned, well-planned exercise by them before they decided to put Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam into that fire. So 56.4 meters, I want you to keep this in your mind. Wood for 1 month, and then they burnt that wood. They burnt that wood. Now, we'll talk about that just now again. When Ibrahim alayhi salam, can you imagine somebody being thrown into a little fire and somebody being thrown into a 54 meter deep hole? You cannot even call it a hole anymore. And wood filled inside from different kinds of trees, which took a month to bring there. Okay? And not only that, they poured oil over it. And then Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was put into it. We'll talk about that just now. But do you know when Ibrahim alayhi salam was put into the well, into this deep fire, into this fire, which was so intense, what did he say? What did he say? He said, Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. Thrown into that. Think about it. We face a little bit of difficulty for Allah's deen. People say harsh words to us because we're trying to follow what is haq. People say harsh words to you and people treat you badly sometimes. We can't handle it, compromise the deen. And some people, without even being treated in any way, they just want to compromise the deen. Here, a Nabi of Allah is going to be put into something that deep, with which there is a fire burning with wood that has been gathered for 1 month. And he is saying, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Sufficient for me is my Rabb. He is the one who will judge me best. He is the one who is enough for me. It is reported that the people had such enmity to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam in that time, these people, the people of Namrud, and Namrud had won them over to such an extent that they felt that when the day they're going to put Ibrahim alayhi salam inside, because for 1 month everything was being gathered, the hole was being prepared, the wood was being gathered. It was told to them about this that we are doing is a very great and beneficial thing. So it became such that the people, when they would become sick, while this whole process was taking place, they should take a vow that when I get better, I'll to take wood and throw inside there. Allahu Akbar. Look at this. Jihalat of its height. We too will take wood and throw inside there. It is still mentioned that there was one old lady who had taken such a vow in inverted commas. And when she got better, she took a huge bundle of wood on her head and she started to also go to throw into that hole. And as she was going, on the way, she met somebody. And the person asked her, "Oh, old lady, where are you going with this big bundle of wood on your head? Where are you going?" She said, "I'm going to throw it into that hole in which Ibrahim will be thrown." So the person that she met said to her, "May Allah lengthen your road. May Allah lengthen your road and increase the number of steps that you will be taking." And she went on walking and on walking and on walking, and the road never came to an end till she died in thirst and hunger. Who was that she met? A farishta. It was an angel in the shakl of an insan. It is reported in some narrations that the wood used to be loaded on animals. The wood used to be put on animals, and then the animals used to go would be taken to that huge hole, that enclosure, and they would throw the wood inside. And this would start the fire that would burn Hazrat Sayyidina Ibrahim Islam according to them. As I told you just now, one narration says, Hazrat al-Fadil says 30 days it took them. Another narration says that for 40 days the animals went back and forth. For 40 days carrying wood. Why? So that Hazrat Ibrahim Islam may be thrown in that. Now, something to think about. When they used to put the wood onto the backs of the animals, they would refuse to walk in that direction. The animals knew what they were planning. They didn't burn yet. They didn't throw him in yet. The animals would refuse to go in that direction. But one of the animals, because it is very relaxed and very lazy and very lethargic, it just went to the flow. What was it? The mule, Khachar. It went with the flow and it carried the things to the hole. The mules did this. And because of this, Allah made it such that the mule is barren, it can't have children. Did you know? A mule cannot reproduce. And the reason for its reproduction to stop was because it assisted when they wanted to burn Allah's Nabi. Think about it. Think about it. Now it is stated in the narrations that when that fire started, they would pour oil into it, and for a week after they would bring more wood and put inside again. They would bring more wood and put inside again. And it became so hot that the wind that came in that area would become part of the inferno. No bird and no animal could come near that enclosure that they built with the fire. It would die. It would die. And when this happened, Namrud became very troubled. Namrud, I want you to listen carefully. Namrud became very troubled that I built this enclosure. We filled it with wood and log for a month or 40 days. And on top of that, we've lit the fire now. And it's such a raging inferno. Now I've done all this. How do I put him inside the fire? Now how do I put him inside the fire? Nobody can go near. Jal ke khatam. Can't go near. Burn. The intensity was too much. Can't go near. How? At that time, one narration says, Iblis came in the form of a sheikh. He came in the form of a scholar, of an educated old man. And he said to Namrud, build a catapult. Build a catapult and put him into it and sling him into the fire. To the extent that Shaitan taught them how to build the catapult, and Shaitan then showed them how to use it. That is why the scholars said the first creation to build a catapult is Shaitan. And he built it for the sake of harming Hazrat Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. What did you understand from here? What a big enemy of the Nabi's Shaitan is. And anybody who assists and supports those people who harm and slander a Nabi, they are Shaitan. They are the agents of Shaitan. Okay? So Hazrat Ibrahim al-Islam, he came and did this. Because it is written in the books that Shaitan came and did this first. And then Hazrat Ibrahim al-Islam was bound. He was chained. Hands and legs were tied. And he was put into the catapult. And when he was put into the catapult, it was released. And Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was going towards that fire. He's already been launched. And as he's going towards that fire, Hazrat Jibreel Amin alayhi salatu wasalam comes. Hazrat Jibreel Amin alayhi salatu wasalam comes and says, Oh Ibrahim, do you have any need? Oh Ibrahim, do you have any need? You want anything from Allah? Ibrahim alayhi salam said, I do, but not from you. I do, but not from you. Hazrat Jibreel Islam said, then ask him from whom you need. Ask him from whom you need. He said, Ilmuhu bihali kafani an suwali. He said, ilmuhu bihali kafani an suali. He knows my condition more than I need to give any clarification. He is my Rabb. He is my Allah. And when Ibrahim al-Islam entered the fire, and he said this and he entered the fire, then his Rabb said, Ya naru kuni barda wa salaman ala Ibrahim. Oh fire, become cool, become peaceful upon Ibrahim. It has been stated, Sadr al-Fadil and Hazrat Sadr Sharia and all the great scholars have said, that when Allah, the Mufassirin have said, when Allah said this, oh fire, become cool and peaceful on Ibrahim, then every fire in the world thought that Allah is talking to me. And every fire became cool at that time. And that fire in which Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was, that fire became cool. The flames were visible. Light was visible. The fire was not burning. The fire was not burning. Look, this is your Rabb, that He may cause that which burns to be a garden of Jannat for you. He made it comfortable for Hazrat Ibrahim ala nabina alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? Because Hazrat Ibrahim was pleased with his Rabb. Hasbi Allah. He was pleased with his Rabb. He was happy with his Rabb. So the question I want to ask here, the question I want to ask you today, we said all of this, and all this that had happened, brief, I was being very brief, it's very lengthy. 54.6 meters height of the walls, like that deep. A huge hole. Wood gathered for 30 to 40 days. Such a huge inferno that nothing could go near it, that Hazrat Ibrahim had to be catapulted into it. They wanted to burn one man, not a million men. And they tied his hands, and they tied his legs. They wanted to burn one man, not a million men. Why did Namrud command such a big hole and so huge inferno? Because he knew this is not an ordinary man, this is Allah's Nabi. Even they knew, they didn't accept it and announce it. But they knew this is Allah's Nabi. That's why they tied his hands and legs. You're putting somebody in such a huge fire. What do you want to tie him for? Yet they knew that the moment he enters, he will be free. His Rabb will free him. They knew this. That is why they made such a big, to show, and it shows us that even the kuffar know that this is the taqat of Allah's Nabi. So think in your mind, if this is the shan of Ibrahim alayhi salam, this is the power of Ibrahim alayhi salam, what is the power of the Imam of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? That is why it is said when Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire of Namrud, the flames could be seen, but there was a light that overwhelmed everything. There was a light that overwhelmed everything. What was that light? It was the Noor of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that was in the forehead of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam went through all of this. He went through all this difficult time. He went through all this hardship. And he did all of this for the pleasure of Allah. But he was patient, he was sabir, he made sabr. Today, how many of us can do that? We cannot do what he did, it's impossible. But how much sabr do we have in our lives? How much of patience do we have when it comes to our deen? How much of patience? And this is both for us as men and as women as well. You know, how much is the shukr of what we get in our homes? We have everything, yet we complain. Do you know, a very great personality, Hazrat Habib al-Ajami radiallahu an. And I'm ending with this. Hazrat Habib al-Ajami radiallahu ta'ala an, subhanallah, he used to spend his days and nights in ibadat. One day his wife went up to him and she said to Habib al-Ajami that you spend so much of time praying, but we hardly have anything to eat in the house. We hardly have things in the house, provisions in the house. Please go and find a job. Earn a little bit more. Try to get more money. Go and find something to do. Find something to do that will really benefit you. Go. So he heard what she had to say. And he went. It was in the evening. And he spent half the night in the masjid, making ibadat. Then he came back. When he came back, she asked. He went half the night, so he came back in the morning. She said, what did you bring? Did you go and earn? He said, I went to serve the most generous king. Served for half the night. So she said, what did you get? He said, He's so kind. And he's so unique in every way that I'm ashamed to ask him. But I have faith that he will give me without me asking. She said, go serve somebody, go work for somebody. I worked. Second day, again he went. Third day, again he went. 3 days passed, wife couldn't handle the situation. She says, where's the things? Where are all the things? Why haven't you brought anything? She said, listen, whoever you've been serving, if they're not giving you what is your due, go and serve somebody else or give me talaq. This is what talaq has become cheap on the mouths of our mothers and sisters and daughters today. If you only know that this is that talaq that is the most word that is most disliked by Allah. So he said, okay. Again he goes in, that night he's in ibadat. And morning comes, and as he's coming near his house, he can smell delicious food coming, smell of food coming from the house. He says, what happened now? Enters the house, wife is ecstatic. She said, you were right. The one who you are serving is truly generous. Never mind for those few days there was nothing, but now there is so much. We don't have to look again in our life. He said, what happened? He said, the one that you were serving sent an entire bag of gold. Sent an entire bag of gold. Hazrat Sayyidina Habib Ajami radiallahu anh started to weep. He said, do you know who I've been serving? He who is Musabbibul Asbab. I've been serving mine and your Rabb in the ibadat of Allah. And I had no doubt that my Rabb will give me, because my Rabb is the Razak of the entire creation. Today, even though we have, it is not enough. When we have, we still don't put our head in sajda. When we have, we still don't want to remember our Rabb and make shukr. And know that He is the Razak. Here, the house of Hazrat Habib Ajami did not have. But he still put his head in the court of Almighty Allah. And when Allah gave him, then there was nobody like him. In every way. This is something we should think about. And these are lessons we should learn from the lives of the pious servants of Allah. And the sabr, we talk about sabr in this month. This is how you learn sabr. This is how you learn to make shukr. Especially if you have somebody in your family who is serving the deen of Allah. Today when our children start reading namaz, you say, oh, Maulana ban gaya. Grows a little bit, hey, man, you became very pious. This is ignorance at its height. If you have a child or somebody in your house who is taking to deen proper, Sunni Sahihul Aqidah, not going 40 days to sell himself somewhere, for the pleasure of Allah and His Rasul among Sunnis, proper deen, it's your job to make sure that you inspire and encourage that, not undermine that. So may Allah give us tawfiq to understand. May Allah keep us with iman. Let us leave this world with iman.